Hi, and welcome to ADHD Friendly. I'm Patty Blinderman. I am an ADHD coach here to support you to tilt that playing field so that we are able to do what we can with our brain and thrive more. If you would like more support for your ADHD, I invite you to check out my website, ADHDfriendly.com, where I have lots of resources and a membership option that is designed to help you thrive. All right, this week, episode 179, I'm celebrating a way that I have gone back to many times when I get down and overwhelmed and not in a good place myself emotionally. I'm also going to update my spending this week. I have an ADHD-friendly tip to protect your bandwidth with a polite no. So apropos for what we were just talking about. I have my ADHD-friendly product of the week. And then we're going to dive into our main topic, which is some dopamine boosting habits, ways to build up the dopamine levels in our brain. And I'll highlight my book of the week as always. But let's dive in to get a little bit more strategies to make our lives more ADHD friendly. All right. So my celebration is I had kind of like a downer Friday through the weekend. I've been working really hard to build up my membership. I really don't do well with marketing. I know this is a really common challenge for people who are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs trying to build up their businesses. I've worked on it a lot over the years, but I realized, and I'm going to talk about my new book next week in more detail because it's our special 10 episodes. So I'm doing a whole POM, personal owner's manual focused episode. But what I realized was I won't ask even people in my current membership to share the membership with others, let other people know that it's there. I don't ask them to help promote it. I'm embarrassed to even like hold up my book because I don't want them to feel like I expect them to buy it.
Well, yeah.
They don't have to buy it, but I even like have this, like, I kind of want to celebrate it, but I don't want to celebrate it if it makes them feel like they have to buy it. So I get in my own way instead of just trusting that people will do what they want to do for themselves. I almost have this over strength. I'm overutilizing my humility and my discomfort of promoting things that I'm creating, even though I am proud of them. But I do feel like it undermines my efforts to market and share what I'm doing in a way that is allowing people to tap into my work and hopefully benefit from it. So I got a little down when I realized that, because my son, like one of my own kids, called and they were like, "Hey mom, I want to order your book. I'm getting it today." And I like found myself changing the topic because I didn't want him to feel like he had to spend money. Like, it was just such a funny thing that I realized. And so I got in my own head and got a little down about how I'm doing all this work for my membership and creating this course that I'm super excited about, but I'm not building the membership to allow other people to connect and participate in the course. And I also know it's not sustainable for me because it's taking so much time and effort. So I got a little down, a little in my head, a little in my, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to, really make this worthwhile for the amount of time it's taking me? And I went back to my Expecto Patronum journal, which is my visual success journal. I looked at the pictures. I reminded myself of my successes, and it always helps me to have that visual evidence of things that I have done, evidence that I can complete things, evidence that I can connect with people. It's just an invaluable tool. So a success journal, a success album, a way, especially visually. So many of us with ADHD resonate with the visual much more strongly. So I just want to celebrate that I have a tool that works for me, that I remembered it existed and I used it. And it did help me to shift out of that negative mindset where just talking through it didn't even, because I found I was just kind of ruminating and just repeating the things.
Yeah.
My husband actually was like, went on for a walk with him and I was kind of, just cycling through it. And I was in my head, not even realizing it. Finally, he's like, "Patty, okay, I hear everything you're saying, but I can't take it in anymore." And I'm like, "Okay, you're right. I'm just kind of spinning my wheels here." So in a walk, we usually do it, but because I was talking about the same thing, I was just cycling and cycling and spike. So I came back and I got my Expecto Patronum visual success journal with all my pictures in it out, and I just looked at them and it did work. So that's my my celebration there. My other celebration really quickly is I'm wrapping up the winter semester, which is the first 3-month module of my hybrid course, ADHDU, and kicking off the spring semester next month in April. Woo! So if you're on my mailing list, you'll get some details on that and some information. The membership includes everything, including the live hybrid course, as well as all the other on-demand courses and tools that are in there and community within the membership. It's only $95 a month, or if you join for a year, it's only $950 for the year. You get 2 months free. It's less than one single one-on-one coaching session price per month. It's less than a month of coaching individually for a month, 4 sessions for an entire year of resources. It's an enormous value. I'm super proud of it. And it's resources, they just keep growing. So if you want to connect and join for the spring semester, it's starting April 2nd. So jump in, join. You can join anytime. You can access the winter semester and everything we did in there. But if you want to join us for the live events for the spring semester, we are starting next week. Can't wait. All right. What I purchased this week. So I do have my eye on something I might be sharing I purchased next week. It will be a bit of a splurge, but I worked at the knit shop again, which I've shared is closing, which is very, just really sad. It's going to be a huge loss. But they're just starting to sell samples, and they're all like the things that were knit and displayed. And there's one that I really want. If it's still there, I am most likely going to get it, but I'll talk about that next week if I do. But in the meantime, I bought 3 sets. These are my favorite knitting needles. I always say it wrong. Chiagu? I don't know. But I love them because they're circular knitting needles that they don't like if you get the interchangeables. I'm in the middle of knitting socks and it will like come loose, and I'm always afraid it's going to fall up in the middle of a row, and then I'm going to drop all of the stitches. So these are like my favorites. So I actually took the time and went through my own supplies to see what sizes I needed of these. And so I got size 5, 7, and 8. So I'm super excited to have these. They were 40% off, so I spent $22.50 on all 3 of them, which is a great deal. That's what I purchased. Yeah, I know. All right, so now for my tip for this week, and that is to protect your bandwidth with a no. It's a boundary tip. So a good boundary. It's a polite no, right? It's not a no. I said no. It's just a no. I'm going to have to decline that offer. So we all have a limited amount of energy. When you think about, I always say when we wake up, I think of it as like a cup full of water. We've got whatever we have, and it's going to be depleted throughout the day. So what you do when a friend asks you if you want to do something, if you're available to help, if your coworker asks you to help with a project, or your boss gives you a task, a family member asks you to go to a play with them that you don't really want to go to, or they kind of drain you, but you don't want to say no, or you don't know how to say no without creating friction. So you say yes. So you know what they say, saying yes to something is saying no to something else. But if you would like to say yes, but maybe the timing isn't good. So maybe like, you're like, oh my gosh, I would so love to go to a play, but maybe not this play, or maybe not that weekend. Yeah. It could be, oh, I wish I could, I really can't right now, but please think of me, keep me in mind if something else comes up and you would like to find somebody else to go with you. If you don't want to go, what gets in the way of saying no for a lot of us is how to say it. Yeah, totally. So I call these back pocket phrases. So things that you can kind of pull out easily and use if you have to think of it in the moment under pressure. My brain will shut down, which is how I say yes. So one of my back pocket phrases is, let me check my calendar and make sure I have the space of time to commit to that before I say yes or no. So let me get back to you. So I always give myself a little bit of a buffer time. And sometimes if somebody's forward, they might say, oh, go ahead, I'll wait. And I'm like, oh no, sorry. I really have to, my main calendar's at home. Yeah, I just kind of do no, I'm going to have to look when I get home and really make sure I have the time to commit to that. So here are some other things that I jotted down that could be some back pocket phrases to consider for yourself. You could say, I'm so sorry, but I have other obligations at home. You do not need to say what they are. If someone asks what they are, I always think of that as even if they mean well, it's kind of controlling, right? So they're like, well, what do you have going on? It's like anytime I start getting defensive, I'm like, well, what the heck do you care?
Right.
I just said I have something
crying?
right. So it could be putting them back on them and just say, oh, I just have a lot. There's just a lot on my plate. I'm not gonna, get into all the details.
With the details.
Yeah. Or I like to come back and go, why do you ask? Because I'm like, are you trying to like take something off my plate? Like,
Yeah.
what is it that you're curious about? But again, remember, you don't have to explain. A no is a no. It's a full sentence if you let it be. Another thing you could say is, thanks for thinking of me, but that really isn't my thing. So let's use the play example. If somebody invites you and it really isn't your thing, or like you've seen something similar. Like I always say, I like musicals, not plays.
Yeah.
So if you invite me to a play, I'm probably going to be more likely to say, oh my gosh, I would love to go do something another time if you'd like to do that, but that is not the kind of thing that I enjoy. So I'd rather you go with somebody that is going to enjoy that. Another thing is, I have a lot on my plate right now, but please check with me again next time. Again, if you would like to do something with them.
Yeah.
If this is somebody that you would never want to go and do something with, which is awkward, right? And our kindness, not wanting to hurt people's feelings, sometimes can get in the way of that. So don't say maybe another time if that person is likely to come back another time. If you want to shut that down, it might be, I just have so much going on. One of my colleagues shared an example of them saying that they have a lot, that they have they have a really hard time keeping up with the friends that they have, that, they're so sorry, but they just don't have the bandwidth to make a new friend and keep up. It wouldn't be fair.
Yeah.
They just don't have the capacity, that they're already not keeping up with the friends they have, and it's causing problems. So just being honest, which I have to say, depending on where you are in your life, that is more common, I find, as we get older. A lot of people have kind of their core friend group, and it can just really feel like I don't have the bandwidth for anybody else. And it's nothing personal. It's just, I can't.
Yeah.
I always say, like, you're looking for somebody that has like the same level of, I don't want to say neediness, but the same level of like they're looking for, there are balloons. You're going to have to edit that out if that was real. I mean, like up.
Yeah.
I'm like, what did I say? That was like that's so freaking weird.
It's like the thumbs up.
It was so weird. So shutting it down just by saying something like along the lines of, oh my gosh, that's really, really sweet of you. Thank you for thinking of me. I can't keep up with, I've already kind of got a few friends not very thrilled with me. I'm really trying hard to keep up with the friends I have. I don't have the bandwidth to take on building another friendship right now. So, I'm so sorry, I can't. And that's going to be uncomfortable. But again, it gives you some language, especially if it's somebody that isn't a good fit for you friendship wise, for whatever reason. Or maybe you get a sense that their level of what they're looking for in a friend, sometimes if somebody needs more of that social connection more than I do, or if I need more than they're looking for, because sometimes I get a sense from somebody that they're so busy already. We're never, like, if we have coffee once a year, it's going to be amazing.
Right. You're not going to be able to connect.
No, which might be fine once a year, but if I'm looking for somebody that maybe once a month I can go to a movie or have coffee with,
that's not going to be enough on your.
Yeah, but I probably don't want more than once a month.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for something every single week, or if you want to talk multiple times a week, and I had this, happen in the past where, they're constantly reaching out. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have the bandwidth for this.
Yeah.
I have a letter from my cousin. If you're listening to this, I am going to write you back. But it's, and I love writing to her. It's just sitting there like this, you need to respond. So it's like, I already have enough expectations for certain things that if you need more from me than I can commit to, it's going to get in the way. Okay. Long bit there. Sorry. So my favorite I shared is, let me check my calendar and get back to you. It just gives me a time to hit a pause button to decide, not only do I want to, because sometimes I want to, but I don't know if I can commit to without creating problems. So it just gives me time to make sure I can make sure there's nothing else going in my family. Don't be like, I can't believe I said yes. I completely forgot. So it just gives me time to make sure I can say yes, or I can say no if I need to. Okay. Now, so that's it for the tip. Now on to my product for the week. Becca, you know, these are my favorite. So Becca handles organizing all of my podcast files. So every week I have my little notes that I put into a file that allows me to go and easily find anything I need for that episode. So it's just a very friendly system. What I love about these files that I'm going to share, these are called the Smead, SMEAD, FasTab, FASTAB, hanging file folders. They have a third cut built-in tab. This is my favorite thing. None of those flimsy plastic things you've got to make fit. They're pre-cut. There's one on the left, one in the center, one on the right. So they'll go, you know, kind of where you can see them at a glance. They're lovely. They come in, my set comes in 3 colors, red, blue, and green. And on Amazon, you can get 30 of these guys for $25.41. They're not the cheapest file folder, but they look beautiful.
They do.
They're easy to find, and you don't have those tabs, which drive me crazy. You just put a little label here.
Done.
You can write right on this if you want. I like to put a little label on our little label maker. They're just lovely. They hold up really well. They're a good quality. They're not flimsy.
No,
Like I said, they are a little expensive. So when I buy enough for the year, every, you know, end of December,
Yeah.
beginning of January, I'm always like, oh my gosh. And I always look for something a little cheaper. Although this year I didn't. This year I just ordered them. I was like, nope, I did that last year and there wasn't anything better. And they just went up. They like doubled in price one year. Right, I think at the tail end of the pandemic, they just doubled. And I was like, come on.
Oh, guys.
But I do love these. So if you are in the midst of filing and you want a sparkly new tool, something that will help, and you really get frustrated with those little plastic tabs, which I hate, check them out. Smead FasTab hanging file folders with the 1/3 cut built-in tab. Built-in tab is a game changer. All right, now on to our main topic. This is going to be quick. I'm just going to talk about how our hobbies can sometimes be the dopamine boost that we need. So this was in a realsimple.com article where they identified hobbies that they found specifically boost your dopamine, and it could be an existing hobby. So remember, our ADHD brain is understimulated. Having ways to fire up our brain in positive ways is really, really key. So dopamine is that feel-good neurochemical that is associated with motivation, pleasure, and rewards. So let's talk about some, I think I have 6. Yeah, I have 6 different examples here. So the first is if you already have a regular hobby, tweak it a little bit. So just, you know, creating a little interest. So maybe like for me, I like to knit, I like to do puzzles. So it might be a new knitting pattern. It might be a new color yarn to make something. If you sew, same kind of thing. If you like to cook or bake, maybe it's finding a new recipe or a new baking tool that makes it really sparkly and you can't wait to get in there and try it. Maybe I remember like the first time I got those jumbo cupcake tins and I was like, oh, this is next level cupcake making or next level muffin making. And it's just like, it had a disproportionate amount of buildup in my brain of excitement for the new size tin. The funny thing though, I don't like the tiny ones.
The little one?
I have that. That did not have the same impact.
As the jumbo?
Yeah, it was kind of annoying because it's so like tedious to fill the little things where I'm like, and the same thing with a puzzle. I love to get like a new game or a new puzzle to create some more interest, but noticing like 3D puzzles are not my thing. I've had people get me 3D puzzles. I'm like, oh no, spatial.
Does that hurt your like your
I'm not good
eyes?
spatially. I just can't. It doesn't interest me. But a new puzzle itself is very sparkly for me. So again, just tweaking a familiar hobby is the first one. The next, so these are kind of things that aren't specifically hobbies, but they could be something that becomes a hobby. So this was like something I haven't tried. I was going to try it before this episode and I haven't talked because it's still winter here in Chicago. I haven't talked myself into it yet. But there was in this article in Real Simple that's quoted, Dr. Kaylor said that, quote, taking a cold shower or plunging into a chilly body of water can trigger a dopamine rush. So she said it can leave you feeling energized and mentally clear for hours afterwards. Now that was the key word that I was like, hours. I'm like, okay, if anybody has tried this is episode 179. I would love to hear if anybody has experienced a hour or longer boost
Right after the
from
fact.
this, because I have written down hours, question mark, question mark, question mark. I'm like, really? Because I think I'd even do that in January if that was the truth. But I'm not there yet. Yeah, I'm not there yet. It's still too cold. I'm still like using my towel warmer.
Yeah, right.
So I'm like, I don't know. But
It's
again,
yeah.
it's an idea. It could be a habit, a hobby that you're getting into. My hobby is getting into cold showers. I don't know, but that was one. Another is to, if you have a hobby around exercising, if you love to do certain things exercise-wise, you like to kayak, you like to paddleboard, you like to walk, run, whatever it is, get creative. So maybe you just spend some time dancing. Could be like a new way to get, kind of calories burn and get your blood pumping in a new and different way. Or maybe trying hiking instead of just walking, or rock climbing if you like that idea to get outside. They say engaging the brain and the body gives a more sustained dopamine release. So if you think about it, you're doing something different that's going to require you to think differently. So instead of like, I go for a walk every day, that, it doesn't really stimulate my brain as much. No, it does if there's like some weather difference outside or something, the leaves are changing, or the spring is, things are blooming. Yeah. But in general, it's not very, novel. So finding a way to create novelty is really key here, but it also engages the body. So you're using your mind and your body, and that creates a more sustained dopamine release, which is what we're going for. Number 4, listen to an upbeat playlist. So I have a dopamine playlist that's just music that I call it music I can't sit still to. If the song is on and I can't stop myself from moving, it qualifies to go on the list. So this is an opportunity to listen intentionally. And again, things like what I experienced over the weekend when I said I was just really, had like this 24-hour period of just kind of glum. Yeah, music is definitely another one of those things that can bring me out.
Totally.
Number 5, this goes back to my hobby, start puzzle. So this is what I love. So they say any logic-based activity. So this was so satisfying because it's how I feel. So they said every time you find a piece that fits in the puzzle, your brain experiences a dopamine release because it's satisfying. It's that, oh, that goes there. Little bits, but every time you find one, it gives your brain that little hit. So it's reinforcing, it's motivating, and it's creating pleasure. So that explains a lot. I always say puzzles are the one thing I can lose time doing. Knitting I love. I don't usually lose time doing it. I'm still kind of counting rows or counting the stitches. Puzzles, I have to set a timer if I have to go to something else.
Because you'll lose time.
I'll lose complete sense of time. So I have to set a timer. But I will go to a puzzle if I'm finding myself getting kind of stressed about somebody's not home yet. I hope they're okay. I'll go to a puzzle because I'll lose track of time and I won't be focused on the fact that they're not home yet. And before I know it, the headlights are coming in or something. So yeah, so that really explained a lot. So I really enjoyed learning that. Again, we're all here to learn. So if you already knew that, fabulous. But if not, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Okay, and finally, try light therapy. So spending out time outside in the morning could be a hobby that you're just like, I'm gonna take my coffee outside. I'm gonna walk around, the trees. I'm going to look at some flowers. I'm going to enjoy the sounds of the birds, whatever. Just get outside in the morning is a real dopamine hit. Dr. Kaler in the same article says that a light therapy lamp can mimic natural light and support dopamine production if you don't have access. If you live in, like a real wintry place like we do, or you can't get outside because of the weather, whatever reason, if you still, need that light, it's a way to get the light therapy even without the sunlight. So we all need a little more. So there you go. Okay, now to my book of the week. I apologize. I printed this and I realized I had to refill one of my inks, which I never have to refill. It's called One Good Thing. So this came out this month. It came out on March 4th, 2025. It's by Georgia Hunter. So this is a new book. She's the author of We Were the Lucky Ones, which was a great book. That's why I requested this, because I love that book. And I was like, okay, I want to read her next one. So this is also set in World War II. It's during, it takes place in Italy, where she's from. So I read a lot of World War II books. I liked this a lot because it was based in Italy, and I've not read very much about what the
World War,
experience was
yeah.
like in Italy,
Sure.
and for the Jews that lived in Italy at that time under Mussolini. So I found all of that really, really fascinating. So historical fiction. So what the little one sentence description was I wanted to share, it says, a remarkable tale of friendship, motherhood, and survival, a tender reminder that love for another person, even amidst the darkness and uncertainty, can be a reason to keep going.
Oh,
I gave it a 4.5 out of 5, which is really rare for me. Very quick read, loved it. So we, not the, because we were the lucky ones. No, One Good Thing by Georgia Hunter. If that sounds like something for you, pick up a copy at your local independent bookseller, or head to your library, request it, wherever you get your books from. Okay, now for the quote of the week. This is another goodie from James Clear. I get so many great quotes from James. Thank you, James, for constantly giving us such great, inspiring quotes to work with to support ourselves. So he says, the quality of your thoughts is determined by the quality of your reading. Spend more time thinking about the inputs. So what you're taking in, which I just love, because it's just a reminder. I started reading a book. I just had decided not to finish it and put it back in the pile to go back to the library. And it's not that it was terrible. It was just, it was called Let's Call Her Barbie, which is the book about how the doll Barbie came into being. So it's fictional, but it's historical fiction. And it was just slow for me, and I never loved Barbies. And I just, so I got like and it was fine. Like I'm sure people, it has good reviews. Like people love this book.
Yeah.
But it wasn't for me.
Yeah. Wasn't.
And so I realized, like, okay, I can let go of this. I don't need to take in information that I don't really care to know more about. So again, that's, I keep that in mind whenever I pick up a book. Like, is it negative? Is it negative, but it can teach me something, you know, because like, I mean, the wars, I guess you could say, are kind of a downer, but if I learn about history, if I learn about, you know, perseverance, that can be helpful. So I think of that really often, but I love the way that James just put that in a really clear one sentence quote to help remember, like, you know, be mindful of what you're taking in, what the input is. So that's it for this episode 179. We'll see you next week when we do a special 10 episode focused on personal owner's manuals. Until then, tally ho.